Real estate agents, if you feel like social media marketing has just been a waste of time for you and you keep putting stuff out there but not seeing results and you're not really sure where to go next, this video is for you. I'm going to walk through, based off my experience over the past 5 years, helping hundreds of real estate agents create social media content, run paid and organic content, run those strategies for folks to see more leads, more views, more followers, all of that good stuff. If you want to hear a little bit about what the kind of results that we've generated, here are some of them below, just so I have a little bit of credibility with you. So let's jump into how you can start to use social media to your advantage. And really the big thing I want to talk about today that's a little different from maybe a normal video is the social media advantage, but really, of course, why social media, one, feels like it's a waste of time. That's the common denominator. Most folks I talk to in the real estate space, they really feel like they just have been wasting their time on it. It hasn't generated results. Yet they always hear these crazy success stories of how it can be amazing. I'm going to dive into exactly why it feels like a waste of time, despite the fact that it has huge advantages, and how you can use those advantages to your advantage, and actually start to see results here based off of really tangible and true evidence here. So let's jump into it and not waste any more time. So number one, why do agents, and I'm going to actually get rid of my my video here for a second. Why do agents struggle with social media content? Well, for many real estate agents, posting inconsistently is kind of the biggest thing here. Now, just for total context and clarity here, we're referring in this part of the video to the organic side of things. I'll mention paid, but this is mostly on like organic videos. So how organic social media marketing applies to you as a real estate agent. So why agents are struggling is primarily with organic is because of inconsistency. So when you don't have a clear strategy, you're kind of just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Now, the problem with that with social media is not that actually you can't see success that way. I think there's a lot of ways, based off of what I've seen, to see great results from trying out video or trying out images or trying out written word and then trying different platforms and different posting cadences. There's actually a lot that can be done there, but the problem is not actually the platform as much as it is the amount of competition that you have. So you have to understand that there's 1,000 agents in like every market in the US, and they're all selling, you guys are all selling the exact same thing for the same price to the same people at the same time. Like, the amount of competition in the real estate space is insane. And that translates to something like social media. So a lot of the issues that I hear folks talking about with social media, it actually is not caused by the competition, but it's exacerbated because of the competition. You know, you could see better results if you were in an industry with less competition. Now, obviously, we're in the real estate space, so we're going to talk about how to use this to your advantage. But that's just a big note there, is it's not always the actual platforms or the algorithms that are causing you issue. A lot of time, it's the amount of competition you have that's keeping those strategies that might work in other industries from being as successful in yours. So because of that, we need a clear strategy. Otherwise, we're going to have weak results. Now, a clear strategy is, we're going to talk about some ways to do that. But again, it's really important to understand this conceptually, because it's kind of like the difference between, you know, getting a fish or being taught how to fish, right? Like, we want to understand the concepts here, because as the algorithms change and as things, you know, trends come and go, if we understand the basic concepts, this is really where we're going to see our results. And this is really where we're going to be able to build a strategy and hire people and tell them what things to do so that we can grow our company. Now, the skepticism that I see from most real estate agents really arises when they don't see an immediate ROI. And the problem with this is that a lot of agents out there, and I'm sure many people watching this video can relate to this, I know I can, we don't have unlimited time, we don't have unlimited budget. And those two things are kind of interchangeably here, because at least as far as social media marketing goes, if you don't have a lot of time, but you have some budget, then there's plenty of stuff that you can do that can generate amazing results. And that tends to be paid, that makes sense, right? Or hiring a team to do organic better and more efficiently for you. And on the other side, if you have a lot of time, but you don't have a lot of resources or capital, so to speak, then what you can do is spend a lot more time on the content. Now, that's actually demands a little bit of a different personality. It can be harder if you don't know what you're doing there. That's where like really knowing your stuff helps and is going to save you time and get you more bang for your buck as far as time is concerned. But regardless of if you have a lot of time, not a lot of budget, or a lot of budget, not a lot of time, you can see great results. The problem is really where you don't have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of budget. Now, the cool thing about that, and I know it doesn't sound like a cool thing, but the cool thing about that is this thing I heard from Alex Hormozy, which was really smart, which is that you can't be broke and busy at the same time, right? Because literally, if you're out here, and that's definitely not the size I want there. If you're out here and you're a real estate agent and you're putting your effort towards, let's say marketing, let's say we'll do direct mail, and then we'll do email, and then we'll do social media, and this is a social media post, believe it or not. And then maybe you're doing other things and other things and other things and other things, and that is spending a lot of your time, right? If you are not generating any results from that, then it is inherently not working for you. If you're spending all of your time, let's say you're working your full 40 hours. I know a lot of people work more than that. I know I certainly do. Let's say 60 hours a week, right? You're putting towards your marketing efforts. You're sending a ton of email. You're sending a ton of direct mail. You're doing a ton of social media content. You're doing a bunch of other different marketing strategies. If none of those are generating results for you, then you are doing something wrong. And the most common thing, and I know I've done this, and I probably will do this again in the future, knowing me, is that you're probably doing too little, actually, but it feels like a lot because you're spreading yourself among different things. And you're kind of, going a mile wide but an inch deep here. So instead of doing 3 different kinds of marketing that all could work, maybe just get rid of 2 of them and just do one. I, of course, am biased towards social media marketing. I think there's the most bang for your buck there, but this can apply to other things as well. So get your time back and put it more so that you can't just put 1/3 of your time, of marketing time, into social media, but instead you can put, 3/3, a full 100% of your time into social media marketing, and that will get you likely better results. And it's really insane here, and this really does apply to multiple different fields or any different marketing stream, but it's really like the difference between like 33% of your time and the difference between 100% of your time. It's not 3x, right? Like, let's say you're getting 1x here, whatever you're currently getting from putting 1/3 of your time into one marketing channel, right? It's not like you're going to get 3 times that result from putting in 100%. It's really more like a 10 times return. So this is really where like people underestimate the benefit of compounded time and how much that can help you, and just keep putting it into the same thing and not getting shiny object syndrome, and how helpful that can be. So all this just goes to say that the skepticism arises when you don't get an immediate ROI, and I get that because a lot of people don't have the budget to just be throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks, or don't have the time to keep trying different strategies that aren't going to work. The problem is that when you abandon something, that is a surefire way to fail at it. So if you're thinking, man, I really need this to work, the most important thing that you should understand there is that abandoning it is a guarantee this will not work. But if you don't abandon something and you keep working towards it, there's actually a chance that it will work. Despite skills and despite how good you are at things and despite the climate and all that kind of stuff, it is better to stick with something than it is to quit it, because if you quit it, it definitely won't work. But if you stick with it, it might. And that is really important. I think in the business world, this is a lesson I've learned time and time again. So I highly recommend, if you're not seeing an immediate ROI, understand that you're in a crazy competitive market and you're in a crazy competitive field. A lot of people want to create content. And here's the tricky thing about social media. Not only do people want to create content to grow their business, but people want to create content to actually just be seen. There are content creators whose job is just to get more views. And you're competing with that with, I need to get more views so I can sell more things. And that's why it's better to go niche instead of trying to go wide there with like crazy trends and stuff like that. But, more on that later. So really what it comes down to, of course, and I know people have heard this 1,000 times, is that social media, oh, let's not do that color. Social media algorithms, they really do favor consistency and engaging content, but the problem is that most people aren't actually doing this. And I just realized I'm not sharing my screen here. The problem is that most people are not actually creating content that is going to get them better results here, because they're not being consistent and they're not creating content that's actually going to work to get more leads or to keep you relevant in the eyes of your target audience. And that can be through not posting enough, not being consistent, but also, of course, the content that you're creating, which we'll talk about here. So a really important concept is the shadow funnel. This is one of the reasons why social media feels like it sucks, but it's actually helping you maybe more than you think. So when we talk about funnels here, I mean, we all know the basic concept of a funnel, right? You have people at the top are strangers, right? And the people at the very bottom are clients. And how do we get people to go from strangers to clients? Well, the best way is to, of course, engage with them in some way, shape, or form. So this is where we have, let's say cold leads, warm, and then of course hot leads, right? And basically this is just a level of how likely they are to become a client. And then of course, as time goes on, you start off with a greater amount of people, and then as you go down the funnel, you get less and less people, but of course they become more and more engaged, which is what we want. At the end of the day, and this is actually an advantage of the social media or the real estate side of things when it comes to social media, you actually not only do not need that many clients, but you actually can't service that many clients. And this is a really funny thing I talk with people all the time is I'll be like on a call and I'll be telling about how we generate leads for agents and stuff like that. And they'll be like, oh, well, how many leads do you generate a month? And my question is like, well, are you really concerned about the number or the quality? Because at the end of the day, if I got you 100 leads, I guarantee that you would not service them properly, like work the leads properly to their maximum efficiency and to the best, to increase the likelihood that they will convert for you. But also, even if you did somehow do that, could you handle 100 clients right now? I guarantee you could not, unless you had like a team of 50 agents. So just a huge caveat there. But going back to the funnel, so strangers become clients through this funnel. And this is a traditional funnel. I mean, you're using mailer campaigns or like an email funnel, for instance. Is like, let's say, I'm not a huge fan of this, but let's say you purchase a bunch of cold leads, right? A bunch of emails, right? And then you mass email them, or your cold email marketing. That actually can work in some ways. But your cold email marketing or whatever, reaching out to people who didn't really choose to receive messages from you. And it feels kind of sketchy because it kind of is, and people kind of hate that. So you're going to whittle through that audience very quickly. But let's say you have a really good text, you're really good at engaging and following up, and you're like, okay, you get in front of some people who, yeah, actually have thought about, buying or selling a home in the near future. And then you keep reaching out to them. You try to book an appointment. Some people show up. A lot of people don't. You get on the call. Some people actually express interest in the call. Some people don't. And then eventually you get to the hot leads who eventually are likely to become clients, right? But it's like a percentage of a percentage of a percentage. And that's how this funnel works. Now, the cool thing is that the shadow funnel that we're referring to here, this is cool because this actually kind of exists in the background. So this shadow funnel is why social media, I think, is really underappreciated and underrated in the real estate space. So again, you don't need a lot of real estate clients to see some great success. And by the way, ROI, I mean, one client can get you, like maybe a $10,000 up to $30,000, $100,000 commission check, depending on the market you're in, the property that you're helping them buy or sell, right? The ROI can be insane here, as long as we, of course, have some knowledge and some strategy of what we're doing here. But the shadow funnel that's going on over here, this funnel is kind of invisible. That's why it's called the shadow funnel. So when we are generating these leads, right, we have like these leads over here that are coming in through our normal like cold email campaign or whatever, right? Well, in the shadow funnel, what's going on is that we actually have our content. I'm going to say content distro because our content is being distributed on social media, right? And so here's how this kind of works from an algorithm perspective. Let's say there are either two different ways. Let's say one, you have somebody who is looking to buy or sell a home in the near future, right? Because you're mass sending emails out to your different cold emails here, right? The people who are responding are the people who are likely interested in what you're actually selling. If there's somebody who's not interested in buying or selling a home anytime in the near future at all, they're not going to respond or they're going to block you or whatever. But the people who do respond, they're going to respond because they have some level of interest. Now, what's really funny is that if they have some level of interest in your social media content, guess what? Or sorry, if they have some level of interest in buying or selling a home and hearing out an agent who's reached out to them, guess what kind of content is likely to be on their feed? Real estate content, right? So if you are putting out this cold email campaign that's going on, but you're also putting out content here where you're creating content that talks about how you help real estate or how you help clients with the real estate, your market in particular with real estate, trends that they should know about, home buyer tips, home seller tips, stories of how you helped somebody, stories of the worst story of cases that you've had and how you've grown from that. All these different things that have to do with the real estate experience, specifically in your market, to the kind of avatar that likely is the one who would likely respond to your cold email. Then you're now being seen on two different fronts. So here's what happens with the shadow funnel. You have cold leads. The cold leads who are likely going to be interested in what you're actually doing, they're going to be likely to see your content, especially if you're doing it consistently and showing up a lot. And then they say, oh, wow, wait a minute, I've heard of this guy. Yeah, I saw him. Like, he sent me an email. Oh, interesting. I like what he's talking about. I like how she is really interested in, this specific part of the market. I'm interested in this part of the market where I live or where I want to live. That's super interesting. I'm actually going to respond to their email now. I'm actually going to, or at least when they email me again, I'm way more likely to respond or to follow up or to actually book an appointment with them. Because as your as your normal funnel is going through the process, your shadow funnel here is doing work, getting people to see your content, getting in front of the same audience, and then having this really substantial impact on how likely your leads from your other funnel are to actually engage. And that's the power of social media. Social media, because there's so many people on it and because it's algorithmic focused, you can get in front of people without having to know them or having their content information or their contact information, I should say, or anything. So the shadow funnel ends up being kind of crazy because in that whole process where you have your normal funnel, but you also have your shadow funnel doing work for you, in that whole process, you're not actually being able to really see that connection with the shadow funnel. Yes, if you were to ask everybody that you emailed, hey, by the way, did you see my social media post? Some might respond yes, or some might respond to that and also remember accurately, yes, I did actually see that. But a lot of times people won't remember that they saw one post out of the thousands that they saw that one day, or they won't even think to respond to that because they're also responding to booking an appointment with you. And so it's not always a really great way to track. And so the shadow funnel is elusive by nature. It's not exactly something that is perfectly trackable, and that always feels obnoxious to us in the marketing world and people who like digital tools that are so good at pinpointing all those little bits of detail and information. But we know that it's effective. We know that it's powerful because honestly, at the end of the day, that's all an influencer really is kind of a shadow funnel for products that they support or brands that they build, right? And so there is a powerful aspect to the shadow funnel that doesn't really get appreciated because of that. Okay, I spent a lot of time on that, but let's move through here. So this is what's missing for most real estate agents out there because, again, they're posting on social media, but they're not actually seeing a direct connection to a social media post turning into a client. And then they think, oh, this didn't work. But when I sent that email got me some pretty hot leads. So the email works, but the social doesn't. And the ironic thing is that your email might have worked only because of your shadow funnel. And that's kind of the irony of the whole process here. So the question then becomes, how do we move leads from awareness to trust and then conversion using social media? So let's talk about that a little bit more. So as a credibility booster, a nice little stat here is that, 70% of buyers or sellers choose the first agent that they feel that they can trust. And honestly, guys, I hate to say it, but it's so true. Real estate agents are a dime a dozen, right? Actually, a dime a dozen. I'm not sure exactly how to quantify what that's supposed to mean from a quantitative standpoint, but but there's again 1,000 agents in most markets, so yeah, there's a ton of agents. There's no shortage of agents to get in front of, and so or to get the attention of, and so it doesn't feel like people are at a lack of options for real estate agents, and that's why it's so one of the reasons it's so hard to market. But because 70% of these buyers or sellers are choosing to work with the first agent they can trust, well, that just amplifies the fact that we need to be showing up frequently, because we need to increase the chances that we are one of the first agents they see, and then if our content is good, one of the first agents that they trust, right? You have to be seen to be trusted. Really, what the process is you have to be seen, and I keep doing this with this wrong thing here. The process is that you need to be seen to then be liked to then be trusted. And this is the know, like, trust process that we always hear about. So consistent, valuable content creates a level of familiarity, making you a natural choice when a lead is ready to actually work with you. If you're constantly showing up, you're constantly reminding people. Think about it like this: that showing up on someone's feed is just like sending them a text message that just is like, "Hey, by the way, I thought of you. Let me know if you have any questions about real estate or the new home I helped you buy." Not only is it re-engaging for previous clients, but it's also massively helpful for new potential clients, because you're keeping yourself top of mind. And when they make that split-second decision, and the sad thing is, it usually is a split-second decision to which agent they're going to work with, we want you to have that mental real estate, so to speak, in their mind, to be like, I keep seeing this guy's videos and I love what he's talking about. I like his attitude. He really seems like a professional, and I know how to get in contact with him, so I'll just reach out to him, right? That's why it's also so important that you check your inboxes. I can't stress that enough. By the way, really quick shameless plug, link down below for the Jarvis Social Manager. It's in a beta format right now, but it's still very usable. I use it for my own company. If you want to use that down below, you can get it free for 14 days. The reason I bring this up is one of the best features on there is it's got a Unibox. So one place where you can check your Facebook, your Instagram, you can link in your email to do that. It's just really, really nice and easy way to stay on top of things. So that's my shameless plug. So social media provides pre-sold leads with who already trust your experience before you're ever speaking to them. So essentially, this is like getting in front of folks and being able to build the trust, and getting around the level of, let's say, I don't really know what the proper term is, but the level of restraint or closed offness that people get when they know they're being sold to, right? Social media content doesn't have that if you're doing it the right way, because you can build a level of trust without being like, I have a sales appointment, I have to meet with this person, they know they're being sold to, they're going to be defensive, and I have to crack down those walls. And that's why I think it's actually, social media is one of the best platforms for people who don't feel like they're crazy good at like maybe high pressure sales, because it's a way to have a really longer sales cycle and to build that trust and that level of communication, before you even get to a situation where someone's going to feel like, they might be pressured to work with you or something. Just that's my own personal preference, but that's why one of the reasons I love it so much. So let's talk about different content types that can actually move people through the funnel. So there's a billion content types out there. Obviously these do not perfectly exemplify everything, but great starting point if you're completely at a loss, or you're just really just getting started with this stuff. Authority content, which is like market updates, real estate tips, and success stories. Specifically, success stories I think are so great. Any form of a narrative. I mean, we're like predispositioned to want to listen to a story, right? We love stories, we love narrative. It's built in our DNA. So using stories is a great way to get people to interact with your content. Be like, even starting off with a video like, yesterday I was helping this client and suddenly this happened. Like, that's a great hook, because people say, wait, what happened? I want to know, and it's a nice way to also easily soft sell the fact that you're a real estate agent, that you were helping a client, and that you could help other people. So, again, this isn't a in-depth video about how to make topics for posting on social media, but I think it's helpful to know. So market updates, real estate tips, success stories, authority-based content, it kind of showcases you as somebody of knowledge and expertise. I actually think a lot of people overemphasize like, I'm the best agent for you. And so even though this is a great place to start, don't be too salesy. Because again, people expect their agent to be a good salesperson. People expect their agent to get them a good deal. That's why they're working with an agent. That's not like a bonus. That is a expected thing, right? So people don't make that as much of a decision of why to work with somebody based off of that. But relatable content, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite. This is like behind the scenes, personal stories. Again, stories being great there. Day in the life. This stuff is great because it's very disarming. It doesn't feel like an ad. And because of that, people won't gloss over and skip past your content like they would an ad. People will listen. They'll build an understanding. There's a reason why people like Ryan Serhant have had an amazing career. Obviously, he's a great agent, but having the narrative and understanding him, and he puts himself out there. But of course, having the Bravo show as a huge staple, a huge notch in his belt. People understand Ryan. They understand his background. They like him. They know he's got a family. They know his goals. He's ambitious. They understand him, and that makes them more likely to work with him. And subsequently, people under his brand, right? The power of being an influencer, really. And day in the life stuff is nice too because, again, it's a great way to showcase you being a real estate agent without telling people, I'm a real estate agent, work with me, which, again, can be very, feel very, very salesy. And then engagement content. So polls, Q&A, interactive stories, spark conversations. Again, stories, always great. There's a reason it's in here 3 times. This is nice, but it's not nice because it's like a way to game the algorithm, which is what people think. Not a way to game. Okay, sorry, I always have to talk it out to get it to write the right thing. So not a way to gain the algorithm, so to speak, but instead it's a way to just naturally build convo. So it's a good way to naturally conversate with people who are interested. Because listen, if you say, hey, like, I'm a real estate agent, I've been in the field for 10 years, I'm really good with first-time home buyers, let's say, what's a first-time home buyer question you have? I'm here to help you out. That's nice because it's a great way to just really easily and naturally get to a point where you're speaking to somebody who, guess what, is a first-time home buyer or wants to be a first-time home buyer. And it's a great way to just kind of build that, really cut through people who are watching your content just because they like you, but actually people who are watching your content because they like you and they actually have a question that you could help them with. Now, of course, we all understand the power of consistency. It's actually, as much as algorithms do reward frequent engaging content, I always like to say, replace the word algorithm with audience and actually think about, no, my audience rewards consistency. My audience rewards engaging content. I want to watch the content that I have a connection with, and the only way I can get hooked on content or hooked on a person or like somebody's content is if I see enough of it to make a determining factor. We think that, like, if people don't see enough of us, they won't make a decision, but subconsciously we do, right? We make a decision about stuff that's not worth our time if it hasn't actually stuck to our brain, so to speak. And so what ends up happening is if you don't even show up enough, then people will never give you the opportunity to show up more by making you viral. You need to have a certain amount of quantity to then show up in people's mind and to actually get the chance to build them as an audience and also potential followers. Now, the other part of that too is that that I think is more important is that the more you do something, the better you get at it. So if, regardless of where you're starting from, doesn't matter if you're amazing at content or absolute shit, terrible, excuse my French, then if you keep doing it a lot, you will get better. So it doesn't matter where you're starting. If you keep doing it, you'll get better. And that's why I think consistency is actually more powerful than it is from the algorithm reasons. It actually is more powerful because you will just get better at making content that will achieve your goals faster. Staying at top of mind is, of course, important. We talked a lot about that. Now, this is so interesting, and I think a lot of people understand it, but we don't, or they know it, but they don't understand it so much. And I realize I keep not shifting back to my iPad here. 80% of sales require 5+ follow-ups. in order to actually move forward. And this is most industries here, but I want you to think about that. Like 80% of your sales require 5+ follow-ups. And guess the cool thing is social media can be a huge part of that, can at least alleviate that. But last time that like you got somebody who like reached out to you, let's say they saw your social media comment, they said, hey, this is great, or I have a question, or I'm thinking about like buying a home. Before you even think like, oh, are they a quality lead or not? Follow up with them 5 times before you even make the call of if they're a quality lead or not, right? And then when you follow up with them 5 times, and then honestly, plus really, I think more like 8 times, and 8 times quickly, not 8 times over a year, 8 times within like a week or two. May sound excessive, but there's power in numbers. Then you should determine if a lead is qualified or not. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten leads for people. They've called them once and then they didn't pick up, or they didn't call them back, and they're like, oh, well, these are phony leads. I'm like, dude, when was the last time you got called, which feels unsolicited, right? It's not actually unsolicited, but sometimes we respond to an ad and we don't actually remember it, so it feels unsolicited. But when was the last time that you got like reached out to by somebody trying to sell you something and you responded the first time? What was the likelihood that you responded after they called you the third time? I bet it was a lot higher, right? Like it's pretty insane when we think about it that like people are judging leads based off of if they're reacting or if they're buying a home with them after the first time that they tried to call them. It's actually kind of insane, honestly. Okay, so moving forward here, the reality of social media marketing, and this is really interesting. I think these stats are so cool. So 92% of realtors use Facebook for lead generation. That just shows you that these markets are super competitive. Take all the real estate agents in the US, times it by 0.92, multiply by 0.92, and you're going to get the amount of people who are using Facebook for lead generation in some way, shape, or form. 71% of buyers choose agents with a strong social media presence. What's really crazy about this is it makes sense to choose an agent to sell your home based off a strong social media presence. But the fact that people are making that decision when it comes to buying a home is actually pretty wild because, it's not that like, oh, you have a huge brand, you can help sell my home faster. It's like, no, because you have a bigger presence, I trust you more. And that's how I'm making my decision, which is pretty wild. And then lastly, 67% of real estate agent marketers plan to increase their social media marketing budgets in 2024. So this is back in 2024 when people were polled, and 67% of agents plan to increase, which means, of course, that it's working, right? You don't increase something if it's not actually working for you. So really the takeaway here is that, the numbers are high, which means competition is strong, which really just means we need more consistency and volume and growth, which comes from consistency and volume and learning from your past mistakes and kind of constantly trying to improve here. And you need these things to be competitive. And that's really the takeaway there. Now, here's a really simple plan that agents can start to utilize. So I have 2 different options here for you. Really comes down to people who have more time or people who have more budget. And here's what we'll talk about here. So the simple social media plan for agents, really, and I've talked about this before. Step 1 is pick 3 content pillars. Oh my gosh, I keep doing the wrong button here. Whatever those are, it doesn't really matter. We won't dive into all the different types that you could use here, but pick 3 and just stick to those, right? Don't go outside of it, just stick to those. Because again, the more times we try shiny object syndrome, the less likely we're going to be consistent with whatever we're doing, and we won't really know the actual fruits of our labors. Commit to some kind of posting schedule. 3 to 5 times a week is great, but listen, honestly, if you just do once per week, I'd rather you do once per week for a whole year than 3 to 5 times a week for only a month. I'm telling you, like consistency over a long time horizon is massive. And then lastly, engage with your followers. I can't tell you, again, how many times. And this isn't just followers. This is really just your audience in general here. Just engage with them. Because if you don't, no one else is going to. If you do all this effort to put in content, somebody DMs you, and you take a week to get back to them. Like, what are you doing? All that time is wasted. It got you the result, but you just didn't follow up on it. That's like going through all the effort of going to the car dealership, haggling for the price, looking at a bunch of different options, coming back to the dealership, finally buying the car, getting a good credit thing, a good loan on your car, and then being like, I'm not going to bother going to the gas station. I'll just let the car sit in the driveway. It's like you went through all this effort to get the car. Just put some gas in it. You can tell that I've been down this road. I've had this conversation before. Now, that is the overall simple social media plan. I guarantee you, if you, I keep doing this, if you do this over a long enough time, you will have growth. And that also, funny enough, could be a little house. The weirdest house that you've ever seen. So that is the plan. I know it sounds super simple, but I'm telling you, don't overcomplicate this. You don't need to do crazy trends. You don't need to have crazy ChatGPT stuff. Are those tools helpful sometimes? Of course. I use them all the time. They're great. But I'm also usually pretty good at staying on top of my content for the most part. I shouldn't say that. I can always get better. But what I'm saying is that the strategy I have is operational right now, but those tools can be a distraction, in which case they're more of a hindrance than they are a help. Has more to do with psychology than it does to do with the actual tools at your disposal. And so here, that is the option for you. If you have a lot of time, but not a lot of budget, that is what I recommend. And I guarantee you, if you stay consistent, and when a lead comes in or a prospect comes in, I swear to God, please respond to them. I guarantee you, you'll see great results. Now, here's the option if you have a budget. How we can do it for you. So this is my second shameless plug. First one, Jarvis Social Manager. Try it for free down below. That was the first one, sorry. Second one is if you want somebody who can do it for you, this is exactly how we work. So without getting too far into it, we guarantee views, and this is an eyeball. Actually, a lot better than my house. We get like views, followers, and actual leads without, yeah, how do I do a lead? I don't really know. This is a lead. Well, we guarantee views, followers, and leads without you having to spend tons of time. We actually do it in less than, we're taking about an hour of your time every month. We guarantee up to 10,000 followers a month and up to 30,000 views, or actually past 30,000, at least 30,000 views from people in your market every single month. And of course, lead generation. We do a little bit of follow-up actually for the leads, because we find if we get you a lead and it takes you 3 days to get back to them, the quality of the lead suffers. So we've actually implemented a system to do a little bit of it for you. And we've had success stories where we've booked a call with the lead without the agent actually having to talk to them, and then they end up being a client, which is great. Our strategy is built for agents. It saves time while delivering actual growth. And then, of course, if you want to schedule a conversation and you and I can jump on, I can tell you a little bit more about what we do, go ahead and check out the link down below. Guys, social media is not actually that crazy complex. It's not easy, but it's not complex. It is simple and hard at the same time. And so I'm telling you guys, it is a great way to market your business, but you have to put in the time and you have to be consistent with it and you have to track your results. Otherwise, we're kind of just throwing stuff at the wall and it's too competitive of a market to do that. And that is why social media is so helpful. However, it feels like such a slog if you're not doing it correctly. So hope this was helpful and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.